What's up, icons? I'm the iconic fashion figure back with a new video. So the information I've given you guys already as far as to finding your factories, and also that last minute upload I did about the virtual trade show so that way you can find manufacturers. Hopefully that set you guys on the right path to start finding where you want to have your clothing line produced. Now in this week's video, I'm going to give you those tips and some things to look out for when searching for your manufacturer. You may have your list already of who you want to contact, or at least an idea in your head of what direction you want to go in, but now I'm going to give you some things to look out for. There's 10 tips here for you guys. First tip, of course, is make sure you find out from these factories what categories they specialize in. So a denim factory you may not want to send sweaters to, or a knit factory you may not want to send denim or woven blouses to. You'll have some factories out there that'll tell you yes to everything. I call them the yes man. It doesn't matter what type of design you send them, they'll tell you yes. Either one, they're a factory that specializes in a specific category and they're going to attempt to try to create this other category for you just so that they can get the money. But don't be shocked if you get something that looks completely crazy once you get it, because that's not the category they specialize in. Or two, that's probably some type of middleman. This is usually a person, especially if you're importing, this is someone that's working in an office and they're going to go contract that work out to someone else. So you'll probably be paying higher rate than you should have been paying had you just gone direct to a manufacturer. Otherwise, you have that middleman in there and you're paying them a commission on top of actually paying for the product to be made. So find out what they specialize in and avoid those yes men. Tip number 2, always find out the MOQ. Some say don't lead with finding out the MOQ because it shows that you're not a serious buyer or you're a beginner. To me, that doesn't matter. I need to know your MOQ right now before I waste any more time with you, because if you're telling me I gotta produce 1,000 pieces and my expectation was only to produce 200, why sit here and provide you with all my designs and go through that entire process to later find out that the MOQ is 1,000 pieces and I can't afford to produce that much. So find out what their minimums are. You don't have to give them designs to find out specifically for your work. Just get an idea of what they normally would produce. On top of finding out their MOQ, tip number 3, find out their payment terms. Find out the type of payment options they accept. Some may set up terms where you can do like 50-50. You can pay 50 up front and 50 at the time of shipping. Some may require 100% payment up front. Some may only allow wire transfers. Some may use PayPal. Some may use Alibaba. Even if you didn't find them on there, they'll just use that as a payment source. Find out the payment sources that you can use and also find out the terms. You'll want to know the terms for sure so you know how much money you have to put out up front. You'll also want to know the payment options because you want to make sure there's something in there that protects you. I recommend doing something like PayPal, Alibaba, anything of that nature, so that way you have some type of protection should things go wrong. Doing a wire transfer or Western Union is one of their favorites. Sending them all their money is not as easy to get back. Now, once you actually start working with them and you trust them and you guys have built up a relationship, then you can do that because it tends to save you some of those credit card processing fees. Tip number 4, find out what type of licensing they have. That will also help you to determine, is that some type of middleman or you're working with the factory. Make sure you're not working in some type of sweatshop that isn't following labor laws or hiring people where they're abusing their employees. You want to look in those type of things and also make sure they're able to export if you are working with an international manufacturer. Tip number 5, find out their lead time. Figure out those delivery dates. For the lead time, you want to find out how long it takes them to produce the garment from start to finish. Knowing their lead time helps you out as far as your planning, because let's say it is July and you are hoping to have this by September for fall, but their lead time is 90 days. You'll want to know that up front again before you're wasting too much of your time and then they can't produce what it is that you're expecting because they need more time to produce it. Also figure out delivery dates, because that was a mistake I made, so please learn from my mistake. I listened to them telling me what their lead time was, but I actually didn't find out the delivery date. So there was a factory I was working with in the beginning beginning that told me her lead time was 30 days. So we're proceeding with the whole production process only for her to say, okay, send me the payment so we can hurry up and get you in line. Basically, to keep a long story short, they had several other buyers that they were working with before me. So my actual production wasn't going to start till 2 months later. And then from that 2 months, it was a 30-day lead time because they were so backed up on their work. So figure out those delivery days. Just because their lead time is only 30 days does not mean they're going to start tomorrow and have it to you in 30 days. Find out the lead time and delivery dates. Figure out where they are as far as delivery at that time. Tip number 6, find out how many employees they have in their capacity of their factory. You want to make sure there's enough employees to produce your work now and in the future. You don't want to work with a factory that is too small and then your business grows and now you're out searching for factories to produce your products again, especially if they produce one of your best-selling products and now you have to try to get someone else to do it exactly the same, so that way your customers don't know the difference. So you have to find out their capacity, find out their employees, the number of employees, so that way as a factory you can grow with and not one that you have to go find a new one in another year or two. Tip number 7, find out their sampling process. See how long it takes to produce a sample. See when you will actually receive that sample. Find out the sample cost. Find out who pays for the shipping of the sample. You want to find out all of that in the beginning before even sending your design, because there are some factories out there that'll charge you like $100 for the sample, even though the actual production of the garment may only be like $8 per piece. So you're paying $100 for a sample that really only cost you $8. On top of that, you're paying shipping too, and they want that up front. But then some of them will tell you, but we'll give you that money back if you actually produce with us. But if you get a sample you don't like, you just spent $100 on a sample you don't want. So find out the cost of the sample, who pays for the sample, who pays for the shipping, and how long. Tip number 8 is more going into legal side of things. This is probably more after you sent your designs to them and you started working with them. You want to figure out the whole intellectual property side and figure out agreements and things. You don't want them sharing your work with other people or trying to sell it as their own. So you want to make sure you are protected. And if you have to, consult with some type of legal guidance or a law firm to figure out how to protect yourself depending on where you choose to manufacture at. Tip number 9, make sure you get the cost of the garment before you actually start sampling. Like I said to you before, some factories may charge you a higher fee for the sample than the actual cost of the goods. So you want to find out what the actual cost is, because maybe they tell you, okay, pay me $50 for a sample, but you haven't actually figured out how much it costs to make it. But what if the actual cost to make it is like $20 and you realize you can't resell that at that price? So you'll want to know not only the sample cost, but once you actually start sending them your designs, you need to know the cost of the goods to make sure you can actually sell it. And then tip number 10, the last and final tip, which is the biggest of them all, make sure to get everything in writing. Make sure it's all written down, so that way later on in time, if they try to change things up on you, you have it in writing to refer back to it. Almost like your agreement here, even if it's in an email, you need it down in writing because things will change and you want to be able to protect yourself, especially if you're working with importing, because communication can be a problem when they speak a different language. It may be tough to understand things, so you want everything in writing so it's clear and you can refer back to if needed. Get everything in writing. But those are all the tips I have for you guys when searching for your factory. Other than that, just look at some of their products. They should have some type of portfolio to show you what they've created so far. Take a look at that, get an idea and a feel for them. If you have to go visit and you're able to visit, do so. I definitely encourage that. But other than that, it's all a risk. Running a business is a risk, so it may not be the perfect factory, and even the first time around may not always be perfect, but give them a chance if it's something minor that you can deal with. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching.